Alright, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to do a little bit of a special video off of this as we're getting close to fantasy football season, the start of the NFL season. I did put together my first fantasy football draft of this year. I have two drafts that are going on that are going to happen this year. I do it every year, really since like 2016, but I have one draft that ends up being a auction draft and one draft that ends up being a regular snake draft. You're used to the snake drafts. It's ones where it's like you go 1 to 10, 10 to 1, and then all the way down everyone gets the single picks. The auction draft off of it is everybody gets a set amount of money. In my draft off of it, it was $200, not real money, but just to be able to pay for your team. And each individual person has someone they get to auction out, and then the rest of the teams, including that one, decide who is willing to pay the most for the team, for each individual player. Sometimes it's going to end up being to where some of these, there's a sample bidding system that they kind of go and tell what you expect to pay for a certain player. A lot of the stars are going to end up getting higher draft capital in that case. Some of them, it's like, okay, people may not like them as well and may not get the steal, but that's a drafting in general. But in this case, off of it, I'll go through of what I end up doing for my draft on this one. So this is my name off of last year, A Purdy Lad to Conk. Basically put together some names I ended up having on my team. It ended up starting to be a Purdy Moody Lad to Conk, where I had Brock Purdy as a quarterback, Lad McConkey as a wide receiver, and Jake Moody as a kicker. This year, I don't know if I'm going to do the same thing off of it, but I'm going to kind of figure out what my name's going to be off of that. Probably have something set up within the week or so. But in that case, just to kind of go through what I ended up doing off of it, one thing that the auction draft does that makes it honestly a lot of a very interesting draft process throughout the entire night of the full group that's in the auction is the fact that it's like there's going to be positions that you have potential of getting 2 first round picks in snake drafts that you would never actually get in the regular draft. Most teams are likely going to spend more of their money, probably a good 100 to 150 of the 200 of that process for like 3 or 4 players. In my case, my highest value guy who I ended up paying for, Bijan Robinson. Some of them may have him 1-1, the top running back in the league. Some of them may have him 2 or 3. Ashton Jeanty is the rookie that's getting the most hype off of it. That's been getting the most hype since college football last year. And yeah, Bijan, I spent $65 of my $200 on. Ashton Jeanty, on the other hand, I spent $46. He still has a lot of hype, but it's also he's on the Raiders, so how good are they actually going to be, and are they going to be able to have certain games where they're going to run the ball a good bit? Because if you think about it, the last year at Tennessee, whenever Derrick Henry was there, Henry was not on the field for a lot of the passing downs, so he ended up giving up a lot of his snaps to Tyjae Spears, who's still in the Titans, who was a rookie at the time, and he was there for the receiving options. But because I ended up going heavy on those top 2, and also A.J. Brown, who honestly probably was a little bit of an overpay, but $40 on it, I was under $50 after those 3 guys, and so a lot of the other ones I kind of have to go and figure out how am I going to value things later on. So if I'm going, just kind of seeing off of the rest of the team, Chris Olave is a 1 receiver, $5. That's even though the Saints are going to be terrible, that's still a steal. Emeka Ibuka, rookie wide receiver. I did go a bit heavy on the rookies, as especially on running back. Whenever they're hyped up enough, they're going to overperform later on in the season and even closer to potential fantasy football playoff time, weeks like it's like 14 through 17 off of it. And while I'm not a big trade guy, if there is people in this league that will be willing to dish out a lot of offers, and usually some of them end up working out in my favor. A couple years ago, I was able to get Kamara and a receiver whenever I gave up Austin Eckler on Eckler's last season with the Chargers, and then Eckler was hurt for most of the rest of the season or just ineffective. So that one ended up working out. But it's like outside that, people may be thinking I have Drake May as my first quarterback off the board, even though I spent half the money I did on my backup Dak Prescott. Prescott obviously has some of the better floor. He doesn't have that much of a rushing game himself. That's where Drake May is going to be more of a factor in that case. Tight end off of it, I'm kind of throwing things against the wall, where Njoku's the best receiving option on the Cleveland Browns, and the Browns are going to be awful no matter who their quarterback is, even though they are starting Joe Flacco. Then Hunter Henry's a solid, definitely not spectacular one as a backup tight end. I had 3 tight ends. I wasn't totally thrilled with getting Henry, but he's a solid floor option. And then Mason Taylor, good chance of being the number 2 option for the Jets, but they have Justin Fields at quarterback. How good is a second option for the Jets? But there's a lot of times that the tight end, if they get someone that can get a lot of touchdown value and in the red zone, tight ends are going to shoot up towards the top 10 of the position pretty easily. It also makes you also think that some of the well-vested veterans like Kelsey is going to go down. You don't know how much to suggest on Evan Ingram, who was very good last year for Jacksonville, but whenever he goes into a new system with Denver, even though Sean Payton knows how to use tight ends, but there's a bit of the depth issue that I'm sure I'm gonna have to worry about. I'm having to rely on a lot of rookies and a few guys where they may be big value early on in the season, but I don't know how likely they're going to end up keeping their starting job once the season rolls along. In that case, I'm talking about Travis Etienne, who may not even get the starting rushing job over Tank Bigsby in Jacksonville, and then Austin Eckler, even though he is likely going to be the most established veteran and probably going to start that season as the starter for the Washington Commanders, because Brian Robinson is on the trading block for Washington. Dan Quinn, their coach, has confirmed that they're trying to shop him out. And then the next guy that's on the roster is the one who's splashed very well in the preseason in Bill Krosky-Merritt, another undrafted rookie. So we'll have to see how that goes on it. But early on, Eckler's at least going to get some receiving yards and a lot of PPR points per reception. And then I do think Denver's going to be halfway decent throwing the ball. Bo Nix was good last year. I think he's going to be able to build off of that this year. So I grabbed the number 2 wide receiver for Denver last year, who came on towards the end of the season with Marvin Mims. So we'll have to see if he ends up being more of a flex start for me, or if I have, with Chris Godwin being hurt for a while, if Emeka Ibuka is just going to go ahead and start from the beginning as a number 2 receiver, if not Jalen McMillan. But the last couple things, Dylan Sampson, rookie out of Tennessee, has a decent chance of being a starter at Cleveland. Quinshon Judkins, the 3rd round pick that they drafted, he had off the field issues on like domestic violence thing. Nothing's been determined on what's going to happen off of it, but there's a decent chance Sampson could end up taking those early rookie reps. And then Trey Harris for the Chargers as a rookie from Ole Miss. The Chargers have the established one with Ladd McConkey. They just recently re-signed Keenan Allen from the Bears. But at this point, Keenan Allen is in his mid-30s, which is kind of ancient for wide receivers. So Trey Harris could end up splashing once the season gets on further on. But whenever last year I ended up being, I believe it was 6th at 8-6 on the season, just making the playoffs as the top 6 of this league makes it. Top 2 teams, 1 in each league, get a bye. It's a 12-team league. Then 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. But turned out halfway decent, but we'll see. We'll see how this year goes. I'm not favored to win the first game on this one against a team by the name of Purple Train of Pain. Are they a Vikings fan or a Ravens fan? But the rest of the way, Jake Moody's the kicker. San Francisco should rebound a decent bit. And Moody, while may not be the most skilled kicker on it, it's going to be an offense that should be a lot better than it was last year, especially if they don't get as much injuries on their receiving core with CMC. And then Buffalo's defense, they're not in a good division in the AFC East. And they've kind of built up their defense over the past few years, trying to get the other side of the ball built up better with Josh Allen scoring near 30 a game for the Bills. But that is my first fantasy football team on this. A Yahoo League that, I've been doing this since 2016. So I've won the league. I've been as low as like 9th in the league. But more often than not, I've at least made the playoffs most of the time. But just a little preview on this league. I may give a little bit of updates on how this one goes throughout the year. If anything comes up that I may want to change off of it. Like, I literally have someone trying to trade me a couple things, and I'm not going to go through it now, but, well, actually, nah, I'll leave that for a next one if I do anything on it. But yeah, thank y'all for watching. More content's going to be coming soon for college football. I'll do a early projection for the New Orleans Saints 53-man roster in the near future, since at this point we're just past week 2 in the preseason, and the Saints are the only one that haven't decided who their starting quarterback is. But thank y'all for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy it. If you want to see more content on this, try to understand some of my decision making, leave any comments down below, and I'll see you with the next one. And I'm out.